Hi, good evening everybody. Welcome back to Cooking with Chief Tony. I want to thank you all for your shares and your likes on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as our YouTube channel. I want to go ahead and just kind of briefly shout out. I got another nice little sweet hoodie for the Chief's Mess. So again, thank you. So tonight, on tonight's segment, we're going to actually do some steak. We're going to have some nice baked broiled asparagus with red potatoes and Brussels sprouts, and we're going to have a nice smooth salad on the side. So that is tonight's cooking segment. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight and for liking and sharing on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube and our Instagram. So please go out, continue to share, continue to like. So let's go ahead and get started. So real quick, before we always get started, I always want to put my apron on. And we're going to go ahead and wash our hands. I hope everybody's good. We have a new cameraman tonight, Mr. Wes, and I want to wish you all a happy new year, 2021. Can you believe it? We all made it. So real quick, just wash our hands as we always do. Make sure we don't cross-contaminate. Dry our hands off, and here we go. All right, so before we get started, we're going to do our asparagus, we're going to do our red potatoes, and we're going to do our Brussels sprouts. So I've already rinsed them off, but you always want to make sure that when you get them and before you use them, you actually you rinse them off. So I'm just going to go ahead and splice these very carefully. I like to splice them because it makes it a lot easier when you bake it. So bake it / broil it. So I just split it in half. I make some good incisions going along the line, and you just take your time with it. Don't go fast. Be careful. You don't want to cut yourself. Okay? So I just go ahead and splice it. And I go down the line. And you don't have to make perfect cuts. It's totally fine. If you don't make a perfect cut, you just go back and you just make another cut at the other end. So just like I did. See, I didn't do it perfect. But anyway, so it comes out a little thinner. So it's perfectly fine. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut. So I've already done this in advance. So you have your asparagus already cut, okay? And you can make them as thin or you can leave them whole if you want. I just think they cook a little faster when they're done that way. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do my red potatoes, and I try to cut them down into smaller bits just so that way they cook a little faster and you get a little bit more out of them, I think. So just going to go ahead and cut up our potatoes here. I hope everybody's doing well. Vegas has been actually pretty decent the last few days. It's been a little bit more quiet than usual without the strip celebration. But all right, so we're going to go ahead and just continue to do our red potatoes and get these bad boys ready. So, all right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take these and put them into my bowl here real quick. And before I actually do my Brussels sprouts, I'm going to go ahead and turn my oven on. I'm going to turn it on to 375. Excuse me. Because we want to get it nice and warm and everything else. So on my Brussels sprouts, how I go ahead and take when I get them at the store, I buy these. I don't buy them very often, but when I do, I want to make sure that they're not completely black on the outside or anything like that. And that's totally fine if they are on the outside, because you can always take that next layer off. I always take the stem off because I don't like that part. So I'm just going to set that in my sink for a moment. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut right down the center. And I kind of split them in half. Now you can either break these down into fours or you can leave them as is. If you have brown parts or dark black parts that you don't like, you can always take that off just like that. Again, I'm going to throw that in the sink. And I'm just going to go ahead and split them like that. Again, they cook faster when you break them down into smaller bits. That's going to be completely up to you. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and continue to do this real quick. All right, and you will have some separation of the leaves and stuff like that, which is perfectly fine. So my oven's on, and I have that going. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take my pan, and I'm going to go ahead and put all of my ingredients for my roasted vegetables, oven roasted vegetables. I'm just going to go ahead and lay my asparagus out and throw my potatoes in here, just kind of mix them up a little bit.
So I don't know if I'm doing a bad job, but it says video quality is whack. What are you using to record? From Amy.
Oh, Amy, so it's my phone, unfortunately. So we're using my phone today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to place my Brussels sprouts in here. I'm going to just even them out a little bit. Okay, so then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and get my olive oil, and I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle, just drizzle it over, because here in a moment I'm going to go ahead and mix it up. So just enough. You may want to add more, you may want to add less. Maybe that's too much, maybe that's too little. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That's what I usually do. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little salt. And I want to make sure I get the perimeter as well as the inside. I'm going to get a little bit of my pepper, and I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some of that all over. Because here in just a moment, I'm going to take all of it and I'm actually going to mix it up. I'm going to use a little bit of my garlic salt and just kind of sprinkle that on there as well.
Amy would like to know if there's upgrades coming soon.
Maybe. We'll see. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my hands and I'm just going to go ahead and mix my vegetables well as much as I can. Get everything with a little bit of oil, a little bit of salt, pepper, garlic, salt, and just move it in smoothly. All right. Just kind of move that about. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse my hands real quick in just a few moments after I've gone ahead and I've gotten all of my vegetables here mixed with oil, salt, and pepper, and everything else. Okay, I'm going to rinse my hands. And we're already going to take this to the oven because this is going to be the longest portion that actually cooks. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the oven. I'm just going to set that right there because actually while we've already in advance, so this is what it's going to look like. And it's a little, it'll burn or brown to your liking. I like mine a little bit darker than some. But I'm going to put this one in here and I'm going to let it bake for about 15 to 20 minutes. And of course, depending upon your elevation, depending upon where your location and everything else will depend on the temperature and the length of time. Okay, so let's go ahead while that's baking. We're going to go ahead and move everything off to the side. And we're going to go ahead and prep our steaks. So this is just a regular thin sirloin. It's a petite sirloin steak. I'm just going to go ahead and break this bad boy open. So what I normally do is I'm going to go ahead and bring my spices and everything over to you. And I'm going to turn my stove on real quick to a very low heat. And I'm going to let it warm up while I get everything ready. So as I have a little bowl and a little spoon here, as you see, and I'm going to just go ahead and put some of my garlic salt, and I put some chili powder in my dry rub. Not a whole lot, but I put a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of salt, just a few sprinkles, and then I'm going to go ahead and put some pepper in here. And then I always like to use a little bit of cumin with mine. That's one little tip that I use, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot, just a little bit, maybe a pinch or two, depending upon how you like to use it. And then I just mix it up. All right, so then that's what it's going to look like once you get that in there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my steaks over to the stove, and I'm going to take my spices with me. And as you can see, I have a little bit of oil in there already, but I'm going to take a little bit of extra olive oil, and I'm just going to put that in there just a little bit. While I let that warm up a little bit more, take my wooden spoon and just kind of drizzle that in there, move that around. While that is going on, move this open just a little bit more. And I'm going to take my spoon and I'm actually going to go ahead and season it right over this container. So, and just kind of sprinkle it like that, but then I like to rub it in, knead it in as much as possible. And then you take a little bit more as you need it. And that's just one side. You can do the sides if you have enough, or you need to get more, you just get more. Then I'll do the same on the reverse side. While that's going, my pan will start to heat up a little bit more. You'll start to hear it sizzle a little bit. And if you have doubts as to whether or not your pan is hot enough, you just set your wooden spoon in there and it should start to bubble. It's not quite ready yet, so that's perfectly fine because we can go ahead and start doing our other steak as that continues. If you have to turn up the heat a little bit, you can always turn it up. Depends on how fast you want to cook your steaks. I cook mine anywhere between a medium-low heat to a medium heat. Alright, so then there goes that side, and then I'm just going to take the rest of this here, kind of scoop it up just like that, because that should be just enough. Massage it in there. Okay, so now I hear my pan starting to sizzle a little bit. If you kind of see that just a little bit, my spoon is kind of all ready, so I know that that is actually good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and put our steaks in the pan. I'm just going to let that brown a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and separate those a little bit. And for those that know that I do not measure, so I always use my nice little serving spoon. I'm going to go ahead and get some butter, and I'm going to have it on standby. I'm just going to go ahead and let these cook a little bit. Take them to the center. I don't know about you, but I can smell a lot of that flavor coming in. I don't want it to brown too much, but we definitely want it to brown a little bit. So there we go. That's what that's going to look like. And then I'm going to go ahead and take some of this butter, and I'm going to go ahead and dip twice. While that is actually cooking a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and take some of my mushrooms that I've gotten already prepared. I'm going to do some of my onions. So I have regular small portobello mushrooms over here off to the side that I'm actually going to use to cook off to the side. There's the oven saying that it's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and move that off to the side a little bit. I'm going to cook these bad boys. I'm going to throw in some onions. So I'm going to let that cook a little bit. And I'm going to go rinse my hands. So as we let this brown on the outside a little bit cook, like I said, I don't want it to cook too much on the outside just because we're actually going to put this in the oven for a little bit. I'm going to let my mushrooms soak up some of that flavor. Now, I like mine a little bit rare. Some people like them well done. This is going to be to taste. Okay, we're just going to let that sit there for just a moment. We're going to let it continue to cook, but we don't want it, like I said, to cook too much on one side. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to turn this down just a tiny bit, and I'm actually going to go ahead and start on my salad. So I went to my grocery store earlier today and I just got my spring mix, which is one of my favorites. It has all kinds of stuff in here. And so this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, for this salad, I've already chopped up some baby carrots. And so that's going to be one thing that I'm putting in here. I also have some black olives, I have some minced garlic, and I have a little bit of corn. So I just actually shuck it off the corn. I'm just going to do a small demo for you. I mean, that's pretty simple, pretty easy to do. Alright, so then once you finish with that, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so then I also have gotten one of my favorites. I didn't do my my homemade croutons this time, but this is one of the brands that I buy, the Fresh Gourmet. I'm going to put in some tortilla strips and I'm going to put in some of my croutons. So, and then today's dressing is going to be cheese and garlic Italian dressing to go with it. So before I actually finish this, let's go back to the steaks real quick because I can hear some nice sizzling going on over here. So I want to make sure that these are all stirred and that they're all good to go. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place this in the oven. In the skillet. And we're just going to let it cook in here for about 10 minutes. While that's cooking, we're going to go back over here and we're just going to go ahead and finish up our salad real quick. So we'll come over here and we're going to throw it in our bowl. Throw the rest of this in here. Throw some of that in here. And then I just throw in the olives whole. And that's going to be dependent upon how many olives you want. You can throw in the whole can. That was 1 can of black olives. I am going to go ahead and take some of my minced garlic. And I'm down at the bottom of the barrel here. But I'm just going to take just enough off the top and I'm going to sprinkle that in here. And then I'm going to take some of my croutons and I'm just going to toss this in here. And I'm going to wait for the actual, to put, towards the end to put in the tortilla strips. Then I'm just going to take some of this. And I'm going to go ahead and just drizzle this over. You can put as much or as little as you like. I like this type of dressing a lot, so I'm going to put in a little bit more than the average person probably. And I'm just going to mix. All right. Okay, so then I'm going to put some of my strips on, and then this would be one less thing to do. We can get it open. Alright, so while we get this open, real quick, sometimes you have failures, you just got to adapt and overcome. Some things just don't work out the way you think they're going to. So, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take some of these bad boys, put it in here. And we're just going to mix it up. Okay, so now our salad is ready to go, and this is what it looks like. Get a bigger spoon in here. So it's nice and all mixed. All right, so let's go back to our steaks and our vegetables real quick. All right, so in the oven we've got them baking, and we've got the steaks on top. So, of course, already pre-done, I went ahead and baked some steaks already. So this is what your overall is going to look like. Now what I'm going to do is what I did is I put these on broil for about 5 to 10 minutes. You definitely want to watch your veggies close by, because if you don't, you'll end up burning them. Now I put these on a low broil. So I'm going to set that. But other than that, you guys, dinner is pretty much ready. So then, take our steak, some of the mushrooms, with the juice, taking some of our veggies that we've already got lined up here. our nice, great salad. Here, put some croutons and stuff like that in there. All right, guys. And there's dinner. Go ahead and cut this baby open. And it's just pink, just a little bit in there. Like I said, it'll depend on your type of steak and what you want and how you like it, of how pink it'll turn out. I don't like mine pink sometimes, some completely pink. I like it between medium rare and well done, depending upon what mood I'm in. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you try this segment, let me know how it worked out for you. Please like and share and follow, and have a good night. Hoo-yah.